dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives.
Dark Souls 3, the hardest game ever created. Also, really good. Pretty much everyone agrees that it's good. I think it's good. You probably think that it's good. Ask a random guy on the street. Hello, sir. Is Dark Souls 3 a good game? What? Get that goddamn microphone out of my fucking face. And yes, so what makes it good? To find out, you should purchase my question and answers DLC, link in the description. There's a 25% chance to receive loot that contains the answer to your question, and there's a 75% chance to get an answer to a completely unrelated question, and there's also a 50% chance to get
nothing! You lose!
Fuck. So there's a 3 in the name. That usually means this is the third game in the series. Now, what happened to the first two? People prefer not to talk about the second one for some reason. That is, to clarify, people who worship the devil. But where I'm going with this is that this game has had a few chances now to perfect its formula. So we're gonna be a little more critical. And we will begin at the beginning, where one of the first things I noticed was something called luck. Now, a competitive, high-skill gamer, such as myself, doesn't need any luck in his video games. I get unlucky enough in real life, okay? But it turns out it's cool because luck in this game is synonymous with greed. You basically get a few more dollars sprinkled here and there if you sell items. If you don't sell them, then why would you ever get this? Then the game offers you a choice. What kind of guy do you want to be? Or girl, this is a women-friendly channel, okay? No sexism, please. If you don't believe in equality of sexes, just pick a guy. I don't know. So let's move on to the actual start of the game, where we appear and we are literally Ash. Now, the plot of the previous games was that you were an undead seeking to light the flame, and now you're Ash. This doesn't make much sense, but the next thing you'll probably notice that, hey, this is a video game, so this means has graphics. But you know, I'm a competitive gamer and stuff, so graphics are cool and all, but performance is something that a lot of developers just don't think nowadays. And I give special props to any developer who makes performance a priority. So how does Dark Souls 3 hold up in this regard? How does it do? How's the performance here? It's alright. And the first thing that actually matters is that we pick up this bottle of Ash. Ashen Estus, and we instantly see a familiar blue bar. And our first gut reaction is that it's good, right? That's what your gut tells you. Your gut, it goes like, this shit good. If this is not familiar to you, then you are probably an old man or woman that stumbled upon this video, and you are not very familiar with video games in general, in which case, keep watching this video. I won't actually give any explanation, I just want you to keep watching. So your gut hypnotizes you into believing that this is good. And that was my first reaction, but after playing the game for a while, after understanding the underlying mechanics, I came to see that the mana system isn't really better. In previous games, it basically worked like a gun. You have a bunch of bullets and you shoot them, and then you have to switch to a different gun, then you just go. But in this game, you're an alcoholic that needs to keep drinking to stay in his fantasy land. So I give them points for realism. So why is a gun better than a bottle of good whiskey? In real life, those two things go well together. Now, in real life, humans can generally walk and drink at the same time. Unfortunately, in the game, you can't. You have to stop and chug. But when it comes to a gun, you could switch the gun on the fly. In addition, to get the bottles of the good blue stuff, you need to go to the stock exchange, and it pretends to be equal. Like, oh, one of these equals one of these, there is no problem. But it's not a really equivalent exchange. It's more like the euro and the dollar. We all know the master race, okay? So not only do you have to stop and drink, but you're actually less healthy as well.
I mean, it's just bullshit.
And also, as you might expect, to be a proper alcoholic, instead of investing your points into things like strength or speed, like a normal human being, you invest them into faith and magic and atheism. And then you also make magic kinda meh, and you create a situation where only the most masochistic, perverted, subhuman degenerates like me would like this. Why would you be a mage in this world when you can be not a mage and actually be useful. Now, personally, I like to whine as much as the next little bitch, but in this channel, we offer solutions. And the solution is to ban alcohol. Now, some people will be upset, and those people you round up and you... Wait, I can't make Hitler jokes in 2020, it's insensitive. Oh, give me a second. And those people you round up and you politely tell them no, and you replace the booze completely with regeneration. So every bottle that you sacrifice would make you regenerate mana that little bit faster, until if you sacrifice everything, you can probably just cast whatever the hell you want. Next thing I wanted to talk about is the whole idea behind Embers. So you take this thing and it literally lights you on fire. Now here's the cool part. By lighting yourself up, you're essentially lighting up your online connection. How cool is that? Oh man. They even improved it by adding that password matching thing where if you're a really, really big guy and your friend is a really small guy, well, it's not a problem. You can play together. What is a problem is when your little friend goes to get a new dose and the dealer kind of gets suspicious. He's not feeling him, you know? He's like,
I'm undead too, but not so charitable as to give my goods away.
So let's take a step into slightly more in-depth mechanics. Who likes two swords? I started this playthrough wanting to go for a dual wielder build because I'm a little edgy, okay? In the previous game, they added a thing called power stance. Now, I imagine power stance was a lot of work, but what it allows you to do is it allows you to take two weapons of the same kind, or sometimes even two different weapons, and wield them, provided you meet the slightly increased stat requirements, and you enter a special mode where you can deal more damage, with the risk being that obviously you can't have a shield, and also you have to invest more attributes into actually being able to do it. That system was no more, no less amazing. It was amazing. It was so great. Why is it not here? Instead, in this game, dual wielding weapons are essentially just normal weapons, except in the icon there's two of them. This is a role-playing game, and part of the experience when you dual wield is actually finding a second weapon and actually upgrading that second weapon the same way. And if you can't find a second weapon in your first playthrough, you have to go into a second one. That's replayability. Wow! And then, for doing all of that, you would get a payoff, slightly more damage. Wow! But it's just gone. I am profoundly sad. But I have to keep doing this video. Kitty, what the fuck are you doing? So right about now in the video, we are approaching the first boss. This is not a coincidence. I have edited this video to match up, you know. And this is where we talk about bosses, because they are these big guys. They're the main appeal of this game for a lot of players, and a big appeal for me. Meet the Abyss Watchers. At first glance, some kind of sausage fest with a bunch of guys just penetrating each other, you know? At second glance, a very difficult boss that took me 100 deaths. 100 times I have died to this guy. You know that feeling when you just really need to prove something to yourself? When you really need to prove that no mom, no dad, I didn't just completely waste my entire life because I'm gonna beat this boss right now in this video game, okay? This moment right here is Dark Souls. Knowing that I'm the biggest, baddest guy in that pile of men is a special feeling. I tried to make some kind of cool looking move when I finished, but I just completely failed. So what do I proceed to do next? I leave a certain mark on the ground, and I join in to help other players defeat this fucking pathetic piece of shit. And on the very first try that I do this, some kind of glitch happens and he just can't deal damage to me. He just cannot damage me. I'm invincible in this fight. So you would think like a fair guy, I just left and reconnected, and I thought, no, you know what, I'm just gonna be fair, I'm gonna kill this pathetic loser while he was absolutely helpless, suffering from some kind of stick disease. To this day, I look back on that fight and I think, oh my god, I definitely made the right choice back then. Holy shit. So on the topic of bosses, every boss in this game has at least 2 stages. For example, for this one, the first stage was a gathering of an unusually high number of men. The second stage was when one man in particular got visibly upset. And if I were to use one word to describe this, I would say cool. And this was executed marvelously. This is really good stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you play video games for. This is the kind of stuff that makes you remember, oh, I had that fight that was fucking insane as shit, right? So developers in Dark Souls 3, from what I can see, set out with a design objective. Give every single boss 2 phases. And one of the best bosses has like 3 phases or whatever, who cares? But there's a small problem with it. You see, there are bosses with 2 phases that are masterpieces. They're super fun to play. For example, the Prince fight. Oh my god, that was so good. Whoever designed that, I hope he got a lot of money for it. But what if the second phase sucks? And thus we arrive back to the first boss in the game. This entire second phase just sucks. It's a huge blob monstrosity that does not even fit on your screen. Its attack patterns are weird for a first boss, and that is for a first boss when players are just introduced to the game. This absolute mess. I feel like at least 100% of the reason for this was so that it would look good in promotional material, because oh, you pull out the sword and this black thing comes out. Oh my god. Coincidentally, this boss actually repeats later on, and at that time his second phase is just like a faster, improved version of his basic form. That's perfect, right? Just give him a slight speed boost or something, or a damage boost, and that's good enough. But it's not entirely fair to harp on this. This is just nitpicks. Most of the bosses, the vast majority of them, is amazing, right? The best ones are usually the ones that get like a second health bar or a separate fight, where you can feel like, you know what, we put in a lot of effort into this, we're gonna use another fucking health bar for this bitch. But there is one boss that I need to harp on more than any other, So you enter this room and there's this big giant guy from the trailers, and you proceed to hit him, and it deals like a millimeter of damage. And you think, holy shit, is this real life? This can't be happening. And I think this was the first fight where I summoned help. A couple of strong, burly men to help me out. The boss is gonna have even more help because now there's 2 extra people in the game. And we're gonna take like half an hour to beat this guy. And it's gonna be amazing. And then this happened. My first thought was honestly that they're hacking. These guys came into my game and they're dealing untold amounts of damage. But then I thought, what are the chances that 2 different cheaters use the same hack at the same time? And turns out this is an intended mechanic. You're supposed to pick up a sword near the throne and kill the boss in 5 hits. Why? Oh my god. This would have been so good. I guess you can throw in this as a fight that doesn't have a second phase because you don't fucking get to notice it.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
So we move on from the boss and we approach an old lady. This is a shop and the old lady is old. Yeah, fucking genius. This old lady has one of the most brilliant mechanics I have ever seen. When you find special ash in the real world, you bring it back here and she unlocks new items that belong to that ash. Think about this. Someone was alive, he died, he turned into ash, you bring that ash back and you get a piece of his history. Whatever items he had on him, whatever belonged to him, whatever he liked. So bit by bit, you unlock pieces of the game, and armor in this game is such that once you get it once, you don't ever need to get it again. You'll always have it in your inventory. So when you start a new playthrough on the same character, you never have to collect the ash again. Brilliant! So the developers took this idea and they duplicated it. If you're into mages for some unfortunate reason, they follow a similar formula. You collect books or scrolls or whatever pieces of paper, and in return, mages unlock new spells for you. You get them once, and then you virtually never need them again, and it works. So then they thought, success, this is genius! And then they took it again and put it in a place where it really shouldn't have been.
Pretty be careful.
So you see, the blacksmith has no need for ash or your shitty books. The blacksmith wants big, black, hard coal. And he unlocks infusions for you. Now, infusions are basically you're picking a stone of any color that you like and combining it with your weapon. The issue is that infusions don't usually have like a clear better or worse version. When you first start the game, or you're starting it again and you're determined to go for a specific build, the game is kinda sort of colorblind, where the red stone is pretty good in some situations, and the blue stone is good in some situations, and the yellow stone is good. The problem is that at the start, a few of them are available, but the rest are locked. So I don't know, if you're some edgy guy like me and you're like, oh, I want a dark stone, I want to imbue my weapon with darkness. Oh, you just can't. You just need to wait until you get later in the game, even though it's not really particularly stronger. It's just different. Like imagine you're creating a character and you want to give him your hair color, like pink or purple. The game goes, well, purple is fine, but pink, to get pink, you need to play for 30 hours first. Wait, is that how microtransactions work? Now on the topic of edginess, I have this really cool build I want to talk to you about that they added in this number 3 game.
You'll go hollow.
And that is the hollow build, and it takes the hollow stone and it turns you into an undead after you make a few holes in yourself and you die repeatedly. Now before you ask, I have no idea how this works, but basically you level up luck, you infuse your weapons, and then you go hollow and it gives you various bonuses including damage. But the cool part is that you see it's a parallel to humans. Whoa. So I said you go for a luck build, which means you don't just pray and hope that your build works out, but you level up that attribute that I mentioned at the start.
Why would you ever get this?
And if you remember, that attribute causes items to drop more frequently. Now collecting more items symbolizes human greed. And when you collect all those items, you sell them for souls. And you level up faster than with any other build. The insatiable hunger for power and money. Of course, to do that, you have this very nifty button to sell all duplicates, because as you'll be finding more items, you'll of course be finding more duplicates, and you need to sell them because there's no point, you don't need them, right? So this button automatically detects and sells all duplicates for you. Now, I bet you can't tell what the problem is because of my amazing Photoshop skills. Were they trying to make you feel extra human by emulating the free market, where you actually have to go and haggle with people for prices? You know, that makes me wonder, why don't they also make us fill out a tax form, you know? I don't know, I guess I just hate being human. So of course, as a professional gamer like me, you would die on the very first boss, and you're met with this screen that politely informs you that your health has in fact reached 0. Why, thank you, I didn't quite notice. Can you show it to me for a few more seconds, please? And I'm just ever so slightly disappointed that a game that has such an amazing engine, where you almost never have any loading times, they have somehow managed to find an amazing way to optimize and load resources in the middle of gameplay, to the point where you just never have to wait on a loading screen. Except... you died! You died! You're dead, man! You're fucking dead! You died, boy! Oh, you're so dead! You're so dead! You're loading right now because you died. And now you're loading! Wow. Unfreaking believable. Oh, you can play again. Now, I understand if you just never use bonfires ever and you just died 10 million miles away. But when it's right in front of the boss, why does it still reload everything? The enemies clearly reset, no problems, when you just rested the bonfire.
I like this. This is cute.
So the first game, new engine, well, not really new, but you know. Second game, understandable, you know, didn't really expect the success of the first one. It happens. The third game... And what's with the bonfire locations? Can we please be real for a second here? Again, I have to point to the number 3. Why is the bonfire in a place that takes a while to get to the boss? I thought we learned by now that everyone just runs past the mobs. I have to ask, is this really necessary? You have to go through this path every time you die to the boss?
Are you serious? This is torture. You're torturing me and everyone else watching.
Even more weird, there are people who are defending this. They're saying like, oh, it's a challenge, man. It takes a skill to get back to the boss, you see. And
Sorry, I just think I'm too stupid to understand this.
So I've talked a lot, and you're probably thinking, whoa, Solmaz, so we've already been through the entire game. Well, actually, no, we're still in the starting area, and realistically, it will take you under an hour to get here. Now, the problem is that if you're like me, it will take you 3 more hours to get out of this place. I have to admit this. I have to lay this off my chest. I went here and there in every possible place. I got on the roof somehow eventually, and I thought, wow, am I really gonna have to farm 20,000 souls to get the key? And you know, in hindsight, no. And the reason why I did this is because in previous games, generally, the game has a very, very clear structure where you can usually get from the very start to the very end of the game without teleporting anywhere. Now, there are some teleports that sort of backtrack you and get you back to the starting area, but realistically, you can get from one end of the world to the other, just like in real life. You don't just call your friend in Australia and go, oh, hey dude, how can I visit you? Oh, yeah, just step into the teleport. There's literally no other possible way to get here. So if you plan to play Dark Souls 3, here's a free tip. Approach this sword and use this thing right in the center to teleport to the next area. And you know, I was really tempted to just go in line and check where the do I need to go. But I couldn't. I couldn't let myself do that because I thought, I'm not a complete moron. Right? But you see, guys, there's a perfectly reasonable and logical explanation for all of this.
Serious?
Let me repeat that, please. Time travel. The lore in the previous games was definitely not at all complicated enough. So they added time travel? Time travel? Oh, you see, time and space is breaking down, and that's why you're Ash and stuff. There's a hidden shrine in the game, which is basically a copy of the starting area from a different time. And how do I put this?
I don't respect time travel.
And that's why we are going to time travel to the end of the game. And there's a couple of endings. One where you sort of light the fire, one where you sort of don't light the fire, and one when you turn into undead and you become the Lord of Hollows. I have no clue what's going on anymore. It's really not important. This game is about the gameplay, not about the story. The story is dark and mysterious, just like your ex's past. I'm pretty sure at this point anyone can interpret the story however they wish, So basically, whatever you want happened, though it happened with a really nice background atmosphere. So the last thing we will talk about is, well, I played this video game, how about playing this video game again? And that is replayability. You see, the previous games were all very non-linear. You had the freedom to go wherever you wanted, at least most of the game. Okay, half of the game. But in Dark Souls 3, you don't. The only option is like a small detour here and there, which usually abruptly ends, and then you're stuck back to the main story. And that makes it so bad to replay. And a lot of people mention a reason for this being that it's easier to make the difficulty scale properly. But it was just fine in previous games. When you go into an area that is clearly too hard, you sort of usually use your brain to understand that, yeah, I'm probably not where I should be going. And your reward for clearing that area is that other areas are now going to be easier. But more importantly, when you play the game again, it's going to be fun. Dark Souls 3 is about trying all kinds of sorts of crazy builds and doing different things each playthrough, but not here. There was one exception, I thought. One exception. You can kill this old lady, and she opens up the path to the end of the game much sooner. And I thought this is the saving grace. This is the one place where I can actually make a choice to do something differently when I play again. And I was so happy that this was the option. I was so happy. I was so glad. I was like, developers, thank you. I can actually do something different. And then you reach a door and it's just locked. And the reason it's locked is because, oh, you're not supposed to be here yet. Go back and do the other stuff first. And so I did go do something else. In Dark Souls 2, you could go in like 5 different directions or something. And then later in the second half, the game got pretty linear. And I would argue that's the part that sucked. And other than that, New Game Plus, which is what it's called when you start over, is not that great. They just kind of give some extra health to most enemies and call it a day. In Dark Souls 2, you got some pretty cool new encounters and stuff, and it actually changed up the game and increased the replayability greatly, but okay, I think by this point you're starting to catch on. So I'm gonna have to lay something off my chest. I only ask that you don't hate me for speaking the truth. I think that Dark Souls 2 was better. If you don't get that joke, don't worry about it. I probably even like you more if you don't. So that's Dark Souls 3. This video may have been a bit critical, but you know, we're all a bit of a critic on the inside, I think. I would still massively recommend this game because it is really good. This is a really good game. I just wish they took bigger steps in solving some of the issues. You know, like the kind of steps that you make when you're in a hurry somewhere. They're like slightly longer than normal steps, but not by too much. But you don't want to run because it kind of makes you look like a retard. If you haven't yet, you should go and play this. And get the DLCs, man. Or don't, if you don't wanna. It's up to you, really. And if you don't usually play games, please write a comment with details about your depression. I'll try offer some words of advice. If you're feeling especially evil, get this for your 7-year-old kid. Watch them struggle, watch them suffer. That will certainly prepare them for real life. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, please don't post anything. Just click away. Click away. Do not press dislike. Do not press anything. Do not comment. Just go. I wish you all the best. Just please don't say anything bad, okay? Or leave very constructive criticism. So this video took me 1.5 years to make. Let's hope the next one doesn't take me that long. But of course, the main reason I made this video was because I had 500 gigabytes of Dark Souls 3 footage recorded on my hard drive. And I just couldn't bring myself to delete it. And I genuinely hope From Software makes another Dark Souls game. Because then I'll make another video and complain about unimportant shit.
Play my video game. Play my video game. Play my video